Good evening, everybody. I'm back for some Tyranny. I know we are at a dungeon crawl part, or at the very least, it seems like Bastard's Wound is a dungeon crawl. So I realize this is an intersection of things that I'm not particularly good at and maybe don't enjoy as much in the game. But, as the title says, perseverance builds character. What did Romans ever do for us? One thing I am a little curious about here, I'm going to go to the store page. If I click on, I believe we already looked at Tales from the Tiers, and this was basically a series of events on the I guess strategic map would be how I'd call it if I was playing something like XCOM. Bastard's Wound. I think I've said this before. So it's sitting at mixed with 185 reviews. About this content. Experience a new chapter of Tyranny, the critically acclaimed role-playing game RPG in Bastard's Wound, a new expansion that builds on the game's compelling story. Tyranny, an original RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, invites the player to make their mark on a world conquered by evil, and the Bastard's Wound expansion opens up a new area of the Tiers where refugees from the war-torn world have established a haven in secret. Delve deeper into the mysteries of Terratus as you bring Kairos' justice, or your own version of it, to a new corner of the Tiers. In addition to the new region, Bastard's Wound gives you a chance to learn more about your party in a trio of companion quests featuring Lantry, Verse, and Barrack. Bastard's Wound will feature a refuge from Kairos. Players will explore an all-new section of the world centered around an illegal settlement of those who have fled the devastation of the war. What sentence will you mete out to the refugees? Companion quests learn more about Verse, Barrack, and Lantry in new quests and interactions to earn their loyalty or enmity. What does Barrack truly look like under his armor? Loyalty and service. Bastard's Wound will arrive alongside a free update to Tyranny, including new voice acting, expanded content in the game's third act, and an all-new path to an unseen ending. What fate awaits those who remain truly loyal to Kairos? Sorry, just give me a second here. Okay. So I'm pretty sure we did read that before. And sorry, I got to sneeze. So I should know better than to take a look at I should know better than to take a look at the overall review. So what I'll do here is I'll take a look at a couple of the most recently posted, and then I'll take a look at some of the most helpful reviews. And I do notice that so I pretty much accept anybody as a friend on Steam, so I don't know who this is, but so from 24th August 2024 is apparently the most recent, at least English review. I wish there was a mixed option. The content in Bastard's Wound is not bad. It gives some interesting lore, a few nice side quests, and a new location. Those are fine. It has companion quests for Lantry, Barrack, and Verse, and some additional content for the remaining companions. Great, sounds good. There are two major problems. This looks like it should... I hate this comment. This looks like it should have been in the base game. The companion quests, that is, the additional city, not so much, because without them, the game does feel like it's missing something. I played the game first without the DLC. I do appreciate that this person specifies this, because I don't think I would have known that the companion quests are there, but it's like the single most... for those of you wondering why I'm reacting somewhat strongly to the idea of this should have been in the base game, to me, the decision to divide something into DLC is effectively a pricing decision, right? So if you think about a game... And, everybody's got their favorite meme of like, what would it be like if EA made a hot dog? And, you have to buy the bun and the sausage and all of that on its own. It's like, okay, this is very cute. You get points among the people who already don't like EA. But what I feel is often missing in this conversation is the improvements to games. So you get much more game in 2025 than you do in like 1995, right? There's been 30 years of progress I just picked 1995 because I think that would be a time roughly when you would like buy a game on a disc and conceivably buy an expansion pack. So there's been considerably more improvement technologically in terms of games. You get more game in terms of content, you get more game in terms of quality. And that I'm just talking about the base experience, right? And in real terms, it's gone down. And I've already written about this so many times in different blogs. So if somebody really wants me to like run through the numbers on that, I can. But I think at this point, I have also noticed here that this is something that people are starting to recognize a bit more. I remember a time when people often wouldn't try to normalize for prices, and it does actually feel like the inflation point is finally being made. So I guess the thing to think about here, right, is that the better example here would maybe to be like a cake, and you would have to compare, two, like a smaller cake and a bigger cake. And absolutely 100% with DLC, with microtransactions, live service, whatever you want to call it, modern game development, including for some indie games, definitely involves cutting up the experience into different sort of pricing tiers or packages, right? So to a certain extent, DLC is almost the indie equivalent of a deluxe edition. And very often you'll notice the games that have DLC do in fact work as have deluxe editions that'll basically give you the whole package. But again, what you should be thinking about is this larger cake, which is having some sections cut out from them, and you have the option of purchasing those separately. And look, some people don't like buying a cake with a section cut out. They want a full sort of circle. I guess not really circle, it's more like cylinder, but and that's fine. Like that's a preference. But the thing is that you're buying a bigger cake. And I don't think it's unreasonable for the person giving you the bigger cake or not giving, but selling you the bigger cake to expect more for it. And again, I even kind of question that idea of saying more for it, because again, that doesn't account for the price, asking more for it in nominal terms as opposed to real terms. Although again, the idea of the bigger cake is trying to account for the real terms. So I might kind of be double counting there. It's a weird analogy, right? So again, what I kind of want to be clear about this is I do not necessarily think it's wrong for consumers to complain about prices, right? No one needs my permission to complain. However, I do think it's reasonable to mark these arguments for what they are, right? I don't go to the fish and chip shop, and when they ask, 2 halibut and chips, that'll be $12. Nah, that's an $8 halibut and chips. That would be considered very rude and unproductive in a context like that. And really, the whole, this game should have been $5. It's the same thing. The only difference is you don't have the shopkeeper looking at you, making you feel like the ingrate you are. I think the reason it should have been part of the base game, this is an effort. Maybe this is just kind of an acknowledgement that complaining about the price is uninformative. When somebody's doing a review on Steam, I don't give a damn what the what the price they paid is. There could be regional pricing differences. There could be, the game could be discounted. And I know all the people who downvote for the game being too expensive don't go back on a Steam sale and say, now's a good time to buy it, right? I get to decide what, I'm willing to spend on a game. What I want to know from the reviewer is the one thing they almost never tell me in these stupid reviews, which is whether or not the thing's any good. So So yeah, with that in mind, I just think, especially in the context of a Steam review, talking about price is one of the least informative things that you can do. And in the end, the idea that this should have been part of the base game, to me, is just dancing around the price issue in a way that maybe is a little bit more rhetorically palatable for some people. All right. So anyways, there are bugs of the old school type. Now, I played it fine without the game breaking, but I did read a guide beforehand full of helpful suggestions, such as do not interact with murals before getting a quest about it, otherwise the entire DLC quest line breaks, and some similar things about order the quests must be done with to work. Very close to giving a negative review, but frankly, I like the quests, and I can forgive game-breaking bugs if I like the plot. So that was a positive review. Negative review, I spent like 4 hours in Bastard's Wound section of this, mostly just running in circles trying to figure out their obtuse layout, only to find out I couldn't 100% it because I helped one guy instead of another, despite there being no indicator that choosing one out of the 3 options would help you. A lot of back and forth and questionable designs in this DLC. Positive review, I just completed the DLC and didn't encounter any bugs. Maybe I was lucky. I was there with party of Ebb, Lantry, and the Beast Woman on the Rebel path. The Beast Woman does not, isn't it Kills in Shadow? Beast Woman doesn't get a name even though she's in the party. I like the story and twisted ways things evolved. So yeah, I mean, this is encouraging, right? Like it makes me want to get past these combat encounters so I can see the story. Because this is the one thing, right? Buried in all of these reviews are basically statements of saying, I want more of this experience. Even the one that's a negative review saying, I got locked out of content because I chose one person instead of another one. It's like, I wanted to experience more of this. People don't, this isn't the like, the food was horrible and the portions were too small, right? Nobody's actually saying a bad thing about the experience. There's the complaint about the bugs, but like the actual content of the DLC seems to be reasonably well thought of. So I'm going to go for the most helpful. I'm actually going to read 4 of these because there's one review by friend, and then I noticed that the 2 most helpful are negative, and so I want to leave at least on a positive note on this. So reviews by friends. This is a bug sack and I do in fact have on Steam, it is heart. The best I can figure, this has been abandoned, and if you want to have a fun experience playing it, make a lot of saves along the way. This review, by the way, is from 13th November 2018. Okay, not recommended, 12th March 2018. I bought this DLC for the full price, thinking I could spice up another Tyranny playthrough with some new content. When I finally made my way to the new Bastard's Wound area, I was very disappointed. So incensed was I, in fact, that I decided to write my very first review on Steam. Other reviewers have mentioned the fact that the new content feels like the base game material that was cut. It does. But the worst part is that the fact that the Bastard's Wound DLC itself feels like an incomplete product. There are no new factions. None of the actions taken in the DLC affect already existing factions, and several NPCs have dialogue that imply the existence of a quest without giving one. While disappointing, none of this really bothered me, as the new quest hub and quests you do have access to feel like a worthwhile addition to the world of Tyranny. The problem is the bugs. I've had to load and reload multiple times due to game-breaking bugs that have not been patched in the months since release, losing hours of gameplay at a time. The final straw was broken when I found myself completely unable to progress without replaying the entirety of the DLC content, downloadable content, because of a bug. I'll refrain from spoiling anything because I do feel that if and when a patch gets released, the content will absolutely be worthwhile. But as it stands, most players will be unable to progress without the new content without encountering multiple game-breaking bugs. As it stands, Bastard's Wound is far overpriced for the great number of serious bugs and relative lack of new content. If you must have it, buy it on sale, but I do not recommend playing through the new content until the major bugs are patched. Again, I'm assuming we're all updating our reviews when the bugs get fixed, right? All right. Dark Excalibur 42. I grew up in an age of expansion pack. Oh my god. God, I hate Steam reviews. I grew up in an age of expansion packs, and as such, am and have always been a strong proponent of DLCs. They're an ideal way to expand on and develop an exceptional game world and provide players reason to replay a game they loved but ran out of content for. Bastard's Wound is not that kind of DLC. Worse, BW appears to be the very pinnacle of all the things hated about DLCs. All those bad things people needlessly assume about DLCs. In other games, I argue with people about that stuff. Here, almost any complaint you level will be accurate. The original game had some tremendously cool characters. Barrack, who's trapped in a cursed set of armor. Verse, a crazy fighter with a unique intuitive battle skills. Lantry, a scribe of somewhat suspicious origins. Siren, a fellow Archon who is only briefly delved into. In the base game, they strongly hint at and lead you on toward potential stories behind each of these party members, but this is never explored. Good DLC rule number 1. A good game must be able to stand on its own without needing the additional content. Good DLC rule number 2. New content fits in seamlessly with the original game. Good DLC rule number 3. New content is of the same quality and standards which were seen in the original content. Good DLC rule number 4. New content must itself be complete without needing more add-ons. Bastard's Wound. Rule number 1. Pass-fail. Partial pass. Tyranny is incredible and stands as one of my most beloved CRPG settings. The biggest weakness in the base game was it didn't expand on the party members. Their backstories were mysteriously, oh yes, that thing about me? How curious. Let's never develop this further. Partial fail, the characters were not able to stand on their own without needing the additional content. That's a self-quote they gave, by the way. Whether true or not, this makes it appear that the party member quests were withheld to be sold separately. Rule 2. Pass-fail. New quests for the companions use Act 3, the game's conclusion, as a trigger to advance. This becomes messy given the rigidly linear path of the final act. It can even hobble players in their efforts to finish out those quests. Furthermore, it means you have little or no time to enjoy the rewards, like freeing Barrack from his armor. Why bother at that point? Rule 3. Pass-fail. Even a brief glance at the Steam forums will no doubt provide you a depressing realization. Many of the new quests are poorly implemented, having strange or unpredictable methods of locking yourself out, missing, or failing the quests. None of this is okay. But what's almost as bad? The spelling and grammar errors. Yeah, you're the one to talk. This is a professional-grade finished product released almost a year ago. Was their proofreader on vacation? I get that this is a huge undertaking, making a game of any scale, but the quality of your original product is a level of performance your audience should expect. It's disappointing. By the way, they do have a point on the grammar, but that's actually also present in the base game as well. Rule 4. Pass-fail. Fail. At one point while exploring the new Old Walls location, you come across a mysterious notebook page. Ooh, you show it to one of your sages. This looks like some sort of music, he tells you. See if the Archon of Song can make sense of it. Then you show it to her. Neat. Let me know if you go back there. And then, nothing. Taking her back to the Old Walls does nothing. There's no quest. Nothing. What? To conclude, Bastard's Wound plays like a game that had high goals, then soundly missed them by not following through. Why wasn't the content fully polished and finished? Dunno. What would have been better? If the party member quests had been added for free, or some nominal fee like $1 or $2, based on whether or not the game was successful enough to merit the expense, but done by using existing assets and no or little additional voice work to keep costs lower. Everybody wants to be a damn producer on these things. Bastard's Wound would have been far better if it provided entirely new content rather than being sold as a patch to cover up the original's biggest flaw. If the companion quests couldn't be added in the way described above, they should have been forgotten, as sad as it is to say, because implementing them in a DLC like Bastard's Wound only generates negative community sentiment. Bastard's Wound could have been much more successful if it had followed the White March's example, Pillars of Eternity. Oh my god. I do not like Steam reviewers at all. So, we're going to, oh my god. Okay, I really wanted to read a positive review, but everybody wants to write for PC Gamer and these two. Let's give it a try. I realize I'm already over time in terms of getting warmed up. Recommended. When expansion packs like XCOM 2 come out and deserve to be called an expansion, Bastard's Wound is an addictive piecemeal. By the way, they censored Bastard. They put like a little star. I feel if it's in the title, it's okay. Piecemealing content that should have been included on release. Whether this problem is indicative of Paradox's DLC model or a sign that the game was released far too early, the reputation of Tyranny is now damaged by BW. As someone who liked Tales from the Tiers, even though how shady it was described on Steam, and someone who still enjoys Tyranny's ending, BW is without a doubt the most disappointing expansion I've ever purchased. This is recommended, by the way. Note that I described it as disappointing, not bad. Perhaps my fondness for Obsidian is developing into Stockholm Syndrome as I cannot recommend this content. However, what I do recommend is purchasing Tyranny and its DLC and any... Okay, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I am absolutely not going to read the rest of this. I'm sure, looking at some of the headlines, this is super pretentious, but I think like 5 protest reviews is enough. This is brain poison. I'm never doing this again. I'd rather get mad at the dungeon crawling than the Steam reviews. And by the way, I've been like unfair to games in terms of my comments on that. Unreasonable comments about games and reviews are a that's not a house I should really be, a glass house I should really be throwing stones in, but I don't know. It's like everybody who writes a Steam review is just a complete douchebag. So we were going through sort of the depths of the old walls here. Now, what I had neglected to do earlier was check for the pages, so we're going to have to backtrack to one of the previous areas. But just to come clean, one of the biggest difficulties I have with this section, and I think this is particularly this DLC, is that I am very interested in the world for this, right? And I think this is a common thing that's coming up for Tyranny, is that, nobody's really saying, oh, this setting sucks, right? It's usually, this is really interesting and it ended too soon, or they ran out of money, or this should have been in the base game, or whatever it is, right? But I will confess, even way back to what I've played of the original Baldur's Gate, the combat in these games really doesn't do that much for me. And part of this is ignorance on my part, right? I have not bothered to learn about the consumables or whatever. Now, I'll also confess, I think the idea of eating like 3 cheese wheels before combat is kind of dumb and is one of the reasons I don't do that sort of stuff. But, so this is where I actually kind of think these types of games might improve from sort of the Doom approach to things, where you don't collect grenades to throw. You have grenades on a timer. And that way you don't have the feeling that you're using up a resource. Or rather, you are underutilizing a resource if you don't have that thing always on cooldown. But yeah, I mean, the pathfinding by far is my biggest complaint. The AI in general, like I tried turning it on, and I have never felt more secure in turning off the computer's decisions. But for these types of games, I would much prefer if it was just sort of the Larian style of being turn-based. And the weird thing is, like, because all of these are clearly inspired by tabletop gaming, it's not like tabletop gaming takes place in real time. That has a formal turn-based system. So the consequence here, of course, is that I wind up just hammering the pause button a bunch of times, cutting the dialogue, and I don't know, like there's clearly a system behind it, right? So I can mouse over with this malice. Let's see if okay, well, that's not what I want to do. I don't think I can cancel an order. So what I was trying to do is, yeah, that just moves everybody to go kill the thing. Okay, right click to lock. There we go. Dodge, parry, endurance, will, magic. So, yeah, I mean, looking at this, right, ideally I would want as many tests as I can get to focus on parry. Has no armor, but it does have protection against frost. Okay, so I'm going to take a slightly different approach here. Obviously, we'll buff up my people. Thing is,
consider it done.
I think there are other factors that are causing the causing me to fail. So I'm gonna get Barrack to charge into the middle there. My spellcasters, I'm going to get to focus on the frost armored figure.
I'll take care of it.
Oh my god.
Heads up, we have company.
Alright. Not great, but...
I will aid you.
I'm on it.
Alright, so this thing just chewed up the Fate Binder.
Right.
Shoot it back off a bit.
As you command.
On it.
The other thing I want to take a look at here, so Aura of Malice, yeah, deals damage, so best to... Ah, and it's weak to shock, which I don't really have, but...
Hurt.
Okay. Bruce is going to be in a bit of trouble in a bit, so back her off.
Count on it. You got it.
So I'll switch her armament, well, if I can.
I'll take care of it.
I will aid you. I require needle and thread.
Alright. So that worked a little bit better than the last time. I mean, admittedly, I haven't done a test against a group like that before. With all the torch keys in hand, return to the Abyss to open the path to Reef Talon. So yes, tempting to do, but I mean, I've got all this loot in the area. It's not like I want to. It's not like I want to ignore that. I suppose the good news is it doesn't seem like there's trapped chests. Alright.
I'd have it no other way.
See that?
What a surprise!
I... I am
No
a
dice.
shield wall unto myself.
Pay attention, kids. You might learn something. I'll take care of it.
I know my own strength. On it.
All right, so again, we want to try and get through as much as we can in this area before we move on. Suppose it's worth checking to see if... Aha! So this makes me wonder if we should be changed. Now, I can't see a whole lot of reason to change this one. But now that the game has established that there's more than one use. So this will be the last place I check out. Okay, still need to figure out what the story is with this. Oh, well, this is the same. Okay, only one option. This is one of the troubles I have with it. I still have not been able to discern what the... I guess like what the purpose or the... like how I'm supposed to know which of these I put in. Like, I mean, I do actually do them in the reverse order of what I think they should be, just so I can, like, check all the iterations. So it would be wrong to say that I've like I'm completely mystified by the results, but I don't know, like it's a little it's weird. I can't quite make sense of how the system's supposed to work. Okay. It's obviously taking advantage of what we learned from these. So this thing is weak to frost. This thing's weak to electricity. Okay. So probably piling on this thing is the way to go. But what I will do is take advantage of the opportunity here.
At once. I'll take care of it.
Okay, so Lantry's got to get out of the way there. We'll move the... Actually, you know what? Let's get Verse to move up.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, so let's get the Fate Binder to pile on this guy now. This guy actually seems to be doing some nasty damage. I got to move Lantry around. And then Verse can set some people on fire.
As you command.
Bleed out, you little shit!
I really thought the Fate Binder was going to finish him there. Alright, there we go. Fate Binder, you can do your job whenever you want. Alright, long overdue.
Oh, someone stitch me up.
Could we do the action we were going to do there? Apparently had no effect.
Right.
As you
Okay, I don't get why I can't heal her.
No, sorry.
Come and face my iron!
Alright. I really still don't know what happened with Verse there.
You won't enjoy this as much as I do.
On it. On it.
Okay, that's gonna be
Found
a trap.
something. On it.
So as happy as I am that I'm able to take these actions, the question does remain: how do I get back to the left there?
I'll take care of it.
So we'll move Barrack ahead like we usually do.
On it.
That is more than I thought.
I'm
I
not
had to
here to
deal
make
with.
friends. Not a problem, boss. Pity. You won't enjoy the. You got it.
No other way.
Okay, I need to get the Fate Binder in here.
Will do.
You got it.
A little annoyed that that thing got fully healed, but
I got it.
okay. Funny thing is, Verse is probably the one who should be holding back, but
As you command. Consider it done.
I will aid you.
okay, Verse gets to run in and do her thing.
As you command.
Yeah, so that's immune to Frost.
Too old for this.
If I can't move. I can't dance.
So it's not great to put Barrack in an area of effect like this, but it's kind of the only option I have right now.
I'll take care of it.
I think we'll move her
I did
back.
not see that coming.
Will do.
As you command.
So we'll debuff the thing here, even though it does hurt the Fate Binder. Let's also get Barrack to...
Raven Ash protects.
Crowd control.
I got it.
Actually, Verse shouldn't be holding back like this. She's got the bow.
Count on it.
I will aid you.
Okay, Fatebinder's got to get out of here. I don't think this will do anything, but
Consider it done.
okay, that's focused on Lantry again now. But what I'm going to do here, I'll wait for Lantry to be able to heal again. Actually, I can probably, if we go get a little bit closer.
On it.
So at least I'm being a little more thoughtful with my combat moves. As usual, I kind of want to see what the alternatives might have looked like. The Old Wall's mural. An ancient mural is painted onto the wall. Take a closer look at the mural. The pristine, meticulously ordered stretch of Old Wall's masonry is dramatically interrupted by an intricate mural painted across the brick wall with primitive pigments. A crude maze of orderly tunnels and simple right angles is depicted, and small, indistinctly drawn humanoid figures populate its varied and winding corridors. In the gloom, it's difficult to make out the precise details at the top of the mural, which stretches above even a beast woman's height. Perhaps you're too sober to see it, but one could see this as a cross-section of the old walls. More artistic image than a map, but it seems probable. There's a plethora of detail packed into the art on these walls. A more thorough examination will likely produce additional information. Examine the upper section of the mural. The upper reaches of the painting aren't well illuminated by the otherworldly lights in the chamber. You'll have to find a way to gain some elevation to make out its details. Climb the wall. The brickwork of the old walls is impressively meticulous, leaving little in the way of gaps between each smooth-surfaced block. With some difficulty, you find the outliers in the precise masonry and find your handholds. It takes you a few minutes to slowly work your way up for a better look of the mural. Now at the top, you can clearly see a large break at the top of the depicted maze. A plethora of humanoid figures swarm the top, with a few trickling down into the maze below. These humanoid shapes come in a variety of sizes and colors, some noticeably larger than others. The details on these figures are difficult to decipher, though you're able to spot some sharp talons and a few that appear to have a tail, horns, or some other extra appendage. As you begin your slow descent to the chamber's floor, you explain the details to your followers. So, people enter this maze from the top. Perhaps the spire is how people came into the old walls? I mean, your spire is capable of teleporting. What's to stop it from porting someone downwards? Observe the mural's main section. The corridors and passageways depicted in the midsection are filled with humanoid figures. While chipped paint and weathering causes some superficial differences, the figures appear otherwise uniform in size, shape, and color. The figures high atop the mural appear of different styles and colors, but you'd need to move in for a closer look to glean the subtleties. One doesn't paint an ode to imprisonment on the first day in a cage, right? How many generations were down here, trapped in this maze? Look at the mural's lower section. Along the lower edge of the mural, on what would amount to be the floor or bottom of the maze, you spot traces of faded paint not visible from a distance. Tiny bone-white hashes of skulls and skeletons are intermixed with the masonry of the bottom edge. Chilling detail. Is this to imply the dead were buried down below? Or down below was built with the bones of the dead? I doubt it's that literal. The mural is complicated and layered, but has likely received as comprehensive an examination as possible for the moment. This mural suggests an old walls that was once full of life, but clearly the present contradicts this. What do you think this is saying? This mural is oddly devoid of Bane. Perhaps it's hinting at what triggered their arrival? I can't deny that possibility, though I'd imagine we'd see a little Bane imagery if this were a creation story. Satisfied with your investigation, you step away from the mural and leave its nuance for the next traveler to ponder. You leave the mural behind and return to your exploration of the old walls.
I got it.
I do kind of like the idea of the fact that I have a fate binder who is
Curious.
not equal to Lantry's lore, but definitely gives him a run for his money. And so one of the ways I've wanted to do those sequences, I mean, just beyond playing an RPG and wanting certain outcomes, that's, always the, because it's fun is almost always the right decision when it's an entertainment product, whether it's a movie or, a game. But in this case here, where I can, I do want to try and make it so that the fate binder, even if they're not necessarily being right, I would at least like them to feel like, I would like it to feel like the fate binder is offering a defensible interpretation on what they're seeing. And that's also true for the record that's being left behind, that instead of just leaving it to Lantry, the idea is that there's a specific observation being made, that it's not actually just it's not just sort of passively reading into what Lantry's saying, but specifically looking at the works and offering a view on what's found there. All right, so probably overkill, but does keep making the lore go up. And I was going down the sage path. Now, as it happens, I think I've actually probably got everything that I want from Voice of Ages, but let's see what we've got for the other options here. So when Lantry's in the party, all party members gain bonus experience for the lore skill and bonus spell slot. Definitely like that idea. Moderately improves the lore skill, frozen stance, mage slayer. Yeah, I think we're going to do bonus to everybody's lore. Should probably learn what the quick save hotkey is.
I got it.
Oh boy. Combat.
Graven Ash protects. Be your champion! I will aid you.
Will do.
Didn't exactly want verse to go in like this, but
You got it. You got it.
I'd have it no other way.
so we've almost taken this thing out, so I want to prioritize that with Lantry right now.
Will do.
Not a problem, boss.
Smashed to pieces!
I've got it.
Okay, dare I say that I seem to be getting a little better at this? Obviously, I'm still feeling paranoid as far as the saves are concerned, but... Old Walls Teleporter. Use the keystone. Fractured Depths keystone. Place the keystone into the indentation. So happy to see where this goes, but I will investigate more. Hello, K-Money. How you doing? I feel like it's been a while. I hope things are going well for you. I'm trying to remember. I know I wanted to check this place out again, but I think... I want to finish off this area first. Quite, just away from Twitch for a bit. I think that's a wonderful decision. I mean, sorry, just to be clear, that's not a statement on your presence here, but I absolutely understand the sentiment, and as a broadcaster, I clearly benefit from stuff like the streaks, or whatever they call those things. Hype trains, sorry, that's what I was thinking of. But I'll be honest, I've never really felt that comfortable with the idea of, keep people on here as long as possible, and generally, like, want to discourage the sorts of things. Thank you very much. Generally want to kind of discourage that sort of thing. And so I've always liked, my usual line when that I have for people is, I don't take attendance, but I do kind of like being able to like genuinely mean it when people say, like, I wasn't on Twitch for a bit. Just because I feel that there's already enough sort of direct or indirect pressures keeping people on here when it's maybe not the best use of their time, that it's nice when people ease up a little bit. But it's great to see you. I hope sorry, I realize I said this before, but like I do hope that the break and life in between has been treating you well, because I also know that whenever I talk to gaming people, that's always a little bit of a fraught statement. I will also confess, as much as I like this game,
Can't do that.
maybe not so much the combat, but this is one that I will confess it's one that I've never actually gotten this far. So okay, so the one thing we can at least do on this next part of the level, although I don't know if you've ever played this. This strikes me as the sort of thing you would have already played, but so here there's two things that I want to do. One, I want to do a bit of a closer examination on any of the areas that might have more of the chronicle. I could sort of mindlessly run to all of these pillars and change the signs, but what I will do before that, I will try and find any of the areas I can't seem to get. So, like, this is a perfect example here. I would love to find what I'm missing in terms of this connection. Yeah, see, I don't need to worry about that. I'm one of these lazy government workers that just collects paychecks from you hard-working tax folks. Although in Canada, that is like being a government worker now is like one of the most fraught jobs possible. I don't think it compares to the games industry, but there's a few layers of irony behind that. But yeah, so I think probably my first so one, it'd be nice to figure out what's going on with this. I imagine probably switching to green. Nope. Fair enough. And I guess I can feel slightly secure in the fact that there wasn't a phantom book page. Uh-huh. Well, it wasn't that triggered. Although maybe something to... I don't know. We'll leave it for the... Oops.
Sorry, I can't. Can't do that.
Oh. Here I am confidently saying that I don't have fancy book pages. Chronicle of the Sages. This chronicle was hidden here by sage Lexime. Take the chronicle so Lantry may study it further. Found another one. This should be enlightening. Lantry smiles victoriously as he hefts a weighty parchment tome. Ledgers! Oh, so many ledgers. Did you know there was a 3-fold increase in mead expenditures in the Citadel in 424? No wonder I don't recall that year. Let's see here. Syllabus? Syllabi, plural. I suppose the lesson plans are part of the historical record, my painful memories aside. Oh, look, multiplication tables. Triangle proof? All 4 of them? And what is Cairo's harem doing in this lesson plan? You've started streaming too. That's wonderful. What are you streaming, by the way? I will take a quick minute here and drop you a follow. Like the profile photo, by the way. I realize so I probably don't exactly have swarms of people, but for those of you looking to see some fine content on Twitch, K-Money, 38,000th of their name. It's been hanging around for a while. And, excuse me, I always number one, I clearly can't speak to streaming qualities just because I am discovering the stream at the same time all of you are. But it is very pleasant to have, I guess the biggest one is it's always nice to talk about people who are pleasant to have inside of chat because, of course, people are not necessarily the same person that they are in person on a broadcast. But if they're cool in chat, usually that communicates some sort of personality that's compatible with the audience. And so, is worth shouting out. And on top of that, it's not very costly to go check out a channel. But the reward potentially is that you find a new favorite streamer. And of course, I've definitely benefited from a lot of shout outs. So my own part, where I can, want to try and pass that along. So whether you do so, please don't do it out of charity, but out of the sense of wild exploration and seeing what K-Money is all about, please do click on that link and hit the follow button. And then I'm hoping to find out what's on offer so I can at least direct people towards a particular style of game, if not the game itself. All right, let's hear about Kairos' harem. The term Kairos harem has a wide variety of uses, none of which appear to be outright illegal to repeat. According to Bledenmark, the harem is a condescending term for the thousands of people that become infatuated by the Overlord and offer their lives to the Archons strictly out of blind adoration and loyalty. Such recruits are said to be plucked from the harem. You also know it to be a mathematical problem used in part to teach clerks, census takers, and other stewards in geometric progression. The clerk must plan a multi-week harem rotation involving an outstandingly large number of consorts, slaves, and volunteers, each group progressively larger than the last. The salacious nature of the world problem is presumably intended to help the lesson stick. I believe this is supposed to be word problem. But, I mean, obviously this is just, my last year, really. You are a huge dork, so you're doing Wizardry 7 for yourself. Now, this is, just to be clear, I am one of those fake gamers who just does it for the money and the women. So if you will excuse me, I'm actually going to take a quick second and see what Wizardry 7 is, although if you want to give me the elevator pitch... going to Hades 2 as you're doing combat design these days. Cool. Likely some Darktide here and there. I didn't exactly bounce off of Darktide, but I did find that it was one that didn't run particularly well on my machine. So even with things like RTX on, so I kind of went away from it from a bit. But the thing is, like Vermintide, actually, there's a streamer, I'm sure you've seen him here, Olaf, or Olaf T. Harry, was, he's a fan of Vermintide. I think more so the first rather than the later ones. But I've always been meaning to go back to Darktide because it's a fun take on the style, and it's very hard to go wrong with the aesthetics of Warhammer 40k. But yeah, it wasn't. It was one I didn't feel like I gave a lot of time to. It's actually also kind of funny you're mentioning you're doing combat design, because I realize combat design probably doesn't really apply here in the case of Tyranny, but definitely last on Monday. The fact that this seems to be a little bit more of a dungeon crawly bit, I don't feel this is the strength of the game. I've not been big on the combat for this, although I do like strategy and tactical games. So, oh, nice, yeah. So, big Vermintide fan. It's actually one of my small regrets is that I feel like it would be good to do Vermintide with them, and I've never got around to it. Although again, you're talking about Darktide. Wizardry 7, Crusaders of the Dark Savant role-playing video game. God, this is nerd stuff. Published by Surtech from 1992, and apparently a port for PlayStation. Science fiction fantasy universe featuring interplanetary space travel and cybernetic. I'm definitely gonna have to check this out. Oh, I know that one. Imperial Champion Day 1. 3 top consorts the next day, and then 9 conquered heirs, then 3 knights of 9 concubines each, then 9 knights of 9 slaves each night. Simple. Yes, quite right. Assuming each clutch of mate increases by 3, you have it right. This isn't how I recall it. I learned about the harem from a text I purchased back in 380-something. It was never part of our instruction at the school. I mean, most of us knew the harem and would tell variations of it at parties, but it was never a pedagogical tool. You seem oddly upset about a jumble of old lesson plans. I am? I am. I know it's pedantic, but it's just not right. I get that we should preserve knowledge, and my mathematic proof is worthy of archiving. It's just... that's something. He tugs at his beard with a growl. Well, it's true we were connoisseurs of any treaties. Never in all my years did I use many of these exercises in my actual lesson plans. I'm probably the biggest Kairos aficionado of all the Vellum Citadel, and I can say with certainty that these elements of Kairosian math were not standard teaching. I see how minor this detail must seem, but it's a lie all the same. You could correct the record. I could, and I will. I'll make a note to return to this. Until now, I know why this was edited as such, and I'd assume not tamper further. That's enough rumination for now. Let's be on our way. With any luck, we may find more of these chronicle fragments.
Will do.
So I definitely should be better. So obviously I kind of scooch around the map a little too much, so I'm sure I'll be missing more fragments. I'm happy to know that they don't just appear in rooms, so I should be a little more eagle-eyed. And if nothing else, this gives me an excuse to sort of bounce around the map on other occasions to see if I have other opportunities to grab things. Now, I guess I'm most of all looking to see what I triggered with that plate. It may not even be in this level, so... Actually, you know, one of the funny things about old games... So as I'm fond of saying, like, I kind of feel tabletop is discrimination against the lonely. I don't really have people to play with. And the few times I have done role-playing, I've very often been the DM or the GM just because, you know, I didn't have... You know, like, if there was going to be a group getting together, it would usually be... you know, it would be people who want to be entertained, not put the effort into entertaining. And I can't necessarily have had any skill at it. But I did do at least some D&D, but my greatest familiarity with the D&D setting would be through the video games, so the Baldur's Gates and the Planescape. But there do seem to be a few gamers at work, and they run off and do their Dungeons and D&D stuff at lunch and have their own sessions and that. So I did eventually break down and buy the core rule books. Okay, so I'm going to do the portal again. Again, I'm not opposed to checking out, what is it? Going to Reef Talon, but I'd like to finish this stuff as much as I can before we go into the next step. Actually, I also haven't cycled through all the different torches, but I'll do that later. But anyways, yeah, so I have been reading a bit more about some of the old settings and that. So in addition to getting the core rule books, I got one of the settings. So I guess the first thing that I can do here to try and make this at least some gesture towards interactivity, I'd be curious if you have a read. If I had to pick one D&D setting to be representative of my personality or whatever, do you have a guess in terms of
Yes.
what that might be, which one I would choose? What is the one setting that I would want enshrined in some kind of presumably hardcover book? But I'm not sure. It's basically like doing a personality test on BuzzFeed or something. It's my excuse to find out what people really think of my nature. Okay, I'm going to try and change as many of these things to green as I can. Waterdeep or Ravenloft? Okay, so I'm actually not familiar with Waterdeep. Would you be able to enlighten me? I do like that you picked Ravenloft. It actually wasn't.
Sorry, I can't.
But it's a guess that I'm kind of happy when people guess. It makes me want to like get some, you know, black lipstick and nail polish and change my fashion choices.
Can't do that.
But yeah, while I wait for the tutorial on water, I mean, I'm perfectly capable of Googling, but it's kind of fun to hear from the initiated. But yeah, I actually got Planescape. And I will confess, I've not played much of Torment. Oh man, yeah, Piratey and Full of Adventure sounds exactly like the sort of thing I would like. Ravenloft too, but you know. I will actually confess, one of the things I think is interesting from the perspective of Ravenloft, and I should see if there have been any games on it. And again, I realize I'm speaking to a professional and just kind of having something between like shower thoughts and considered opinion. But I mean, on the like, I'm not completely devoid. Like, obviously, I worked in movies. Like, I try and at least understand entertainment products as more than just like I liked this thing, I didn't like this thing. But one of the things I find kind of interesting about Ravenloft is, when you think of Dungeons and Dragons, you very often think of, the mighty heroes, the stereotype of the murder hobo, and so on and so forth. And obviously, the series and the setting punches above its weight when you move beyond that. But very much it's, you get more levels and you get more powerful items, and you get progressively stronger, basically. And, much like going to an Amnesia or an Outlast or something like that, the ideas behind Ravenloft, while I've never played it, seem to be very much the opposite of that, right? It's, if you want to create a sense of dread or terror, it's, I would feel that the sense of, being able to take on the world or to take on increasingly powerful creatures is sort of the opposite of what you would want someone in a horror setting like that. And instead, what you would want would maybe be something like 1984 or, kind of what you would imagine a lot of Russian history, and actually probably contemporary Russia, to be, keep your head down, don't let the people in charge notice you, that sort of atmosphere. Now, the thing is, like, it's clearly a setting that has worked. They wouldn't continue with it if they haven't. But I'm trying to actually think of cases where I've seen games instantiate the Ravenloft setting. And I'd be really interested in it, just because when I think of a stereotypical D&D experience, it's very much not the sorts of things I would associate with Ravenloft. And so I feel like I would learn a lot more about sort of gaming or being a DM if I could sort of see how this set of assumptions, or the the default that people are going with on Dungeons and Dragons, how people sort of feel, you're not going in with what your default expectation would be, but you're still sort of feeling satisfied by the end of it. Whereas in the case, where we talk about, piratey and Full of Adventure, it doesn't necessarily have to be I'm fighting the dragon or I'm going into the dungeon, but you can sort of see how the acquisition of greater and more powerful treasure is very much in line with sort of the... Oh, actually, you know what? It's about there's an interesting book called The Hitmakers, and I think I'm pretty sure it's The Hitmakers. One of their sort of, I guess, formulas that they identify for like real hits, the sort of stuff that would go viral or have lots of people pay attention, is the idea that it's sort of novel but familiar. So you don't want something to be the exact same as like the last top 10 hit that you heard or something like that, because, that's just repetitive. Like, there's a reason why there wasn't one perfect song made and we all just listened to that. But if it's too avant-garde, then usually people react negatively. So I guess you can maybe make an analogy to indie games where like you'll see some really interesting things come out of indies. And then I don't want to suggest that the higher level is behind the curve, because it's not. But what happens is you sort of start to see some of this stuff sort of filed in over time. And again, it's not like every single Assassin's Creed game is the same one after the other. But you start seeing more things added in. You have the safety of the formula that you know well, while at the same time allowing you to to try some new things in the context. That's probably a terrible example of sort of the novel but novel but familiar formulation. I'm sure they have a better phrasing for it too. But Crystalline Speakin is not responding to the torch keys from these old walls. Presumably when I can open that thing, the demons will come out. But yeah, anyway, sorry. So like, and actually, I guess the best illustration of this would be the way I reacted to the way you said Waterdeep, where I immediately had in mind what that experience must be like. So the other possibility is that I just lack imagination and it's actually not that complicated. Okay. I don't think this is going to change anything, but I do want to at least verify it. So I'm going to make a guess here that this is telling me yellow on this side, blue on this side. Surprise. The other one I will say in terms of, I'm sure I rant about this too much, but my sort of white whale for role-playing has been Traveler. I would kind of like to either play in or run that. What? No! It was 4 days ago. 8? That's absurd. Arguing with a perceived interlocutor, or perhaps herself, the old sage mutters with her attention jumping from left hand to right as she banters. Then we should retrace our steps. As you approach, the sage turns towards you, her face calm and a tranquil smile. Her face a calm and tranquil smile. Oh, darling, having trouble sleeping too? It really is you. At first I didn't want to believe, but then, eyes wide with surprise, Lantry ambles forward, seemingly uncertain of what he's expecting. That voice. Lexime looks around, her glance darting in every direction but Lantry's. Mel, what happened to you? How long has it been? Your youth. Where did it go? You're supposed to outlive me, not the other way round. No, not Mel. Lantry's eyes fall to the ground, his face awash in defeat. It's me, Lantry. Don't you remember? Sage Lexime, I presume. Lantry has told me almost nothing about you. Not Lantry, Lexime! She points to herself with a knowing smile. Or so they call me. Got a link for you on that whole novel and familiar thing. Oh, I'd feel free to share, K-Money. You should be able to just drop that in the chat. It's actually, so I know it's a bit of a smaller crowd now, so I get to speak a bit more free. I mean, obviously there's always the VOD, but I think I ranted enough to scare everyone away. But one of the... It's actually kind of funny because I did get to talk with a developer whose game I was covering, and I wasn't necessarily aware that they were watching at the time. But I'm sure because you've sort of operated on a few different sides of the camera now, so developer, viewer, and now broadcaster, that idea of having to say something, and especially because it can very often be easy to build a community around disliking something rather than enjoyment. I definitely understand. I dislike, but I definitely understand how for a lot of broadcasters, the the impulse to go negative and to talk about the flaws in things is is almost a default. And it's one that I do sometimes feel sort of a conscious effort to push back against. And obviously, like last stream especially, I was complaining a lot about Tyranny. Sometimes you just can't help it, right? But it can be very frustrating to see people basically backseat design. And I think this might just be the benefit of sort of knowing a few people who do this at varying degrees of sort of professionalism. Maybe not professionalism is the term that I want, but there's some people who it is their only source of income as the owner and operator of a business. There are people who sort of work in a larger scale environment, and in the local game dev community, there's a bunch of people who I don't even think intend to make any money from their products. But the intent to pontificate on how game design should be made. At the very start, I was complaining about Steam reviews because nobody actually seems to want to talk about whether or not the game is worth playing. They all want to talk about, they all basically want to write a really bad version of a PC Gamer review, or they want to talk about how apparently they know how to spend my money better than I do. So I've always lived in this weird little spot where I want to be, I don't want to avoid talking about the game and how I'm feeling during it, or things that I think are working or not, because much like sitting down and watching a movie and sort of seeing how it does what it does, whether that's through lighting, the use of editing, sound, all the different parts that make the movie so great to watch. It's not just that I had that professional interest in the past, but I actually find it a very enjoyable way to watch. It keeps me active as opposed to just sitting back and letting a movie wash over me. And I get more out of a movie as a result of doing that. And so while I don't have the professional experience in terms of gaming to be able to do that, I do still think active participation is one of those things that allows me to get a little bit more. If nothing else, it gives me something more to talk about. But I always feel like I'm kind of taking my life in my hands just because I don't really have a grammar for that. So like I'm sure I sort of stumbled over myself on a few points in terms of talking about how it feels that on the surface, Ravenloft almost seems to be the opposite of what I would normally expect inside of Dungeons and Dragons. And yet the mere, not just the existence, but the reintroduction of that, even in the new D&D, which does not necessarily retain all of the even beloved settings, is something that I should take note of, because of course being able to solve that, being able to understand that, means that I get a bigger idea of what gaming can be and how it works. So anyways, that's just a really long way of saying thank you for the link. I'm actually just going to put that in my collection now. All right. I'm going to finish this dialogue. I may also take a small break. I know I started with like a 20-minute rant at the start, but I could probably use a glass of water and a bit of a stretch. But let's finish the dialogue and then we can move on. Not Lantry, Lexime, she points to herself with a knowing smile. Or so they call me. The sage rubs her temple with a pained smile. Sorry, my mind feels all a fog. No lightning. It's all in here, just tired of being tired. All I need is a little sleep, a little shut-eye, and it will all make sense. Step back and let Lantry talk to her. Lexime, It's me, Lantry. He steps forward and reaches his hand out to touch Lexine. Oh, it is you! The old woman's face slackens. Her eyes blink as tears begin to form around her eyes. I thought you were just... She grabs his hand and presses it to her cheek. A delusion. I have so many these days, and many of them are you. I thought you were dead. When the Fatebinder said a missive came from a Sage L, I didn't believe it was you. I didn't want to tease myself with a hope. How did you escape? Who was with you? I have so many questions, but I really need to know how we get you out of here. How to make you better. Remain silent. Perhaps it would be better if I were dead. I feel... Don't say such a thing. Be glad you... Listen to me. I haven't slept in weeks. I can't tell flavors of food. Even salt has no taste. And worse than that, I can't work my sigils. Not a one. She quickly darts her hands in a flurry of hand signs, her finger positions and wrist work showing decades of rehearsed motion. I've signed these spells 1,000 times now, but now it's all gone. I found out I had a well only after it's dried up. How do you two know each other? I've known Lantry since... Well, back when he had just a few gray hairs. I swear he's like he's born at 70. But he still looks good, doesn't he? Doesn't look a day over 120. Thanks. I'd forgotten just how diligently you've chronicled my I know this word, I just don't know how to pronounce it. Sentience? No. Senescence. Lantry, I believe this means basically becoming senile, but Lantry rolls his eye before turning to you. Lexime and I studied together for a very long time. No need to be coy, we're old folks now, so it's our duty to make the young folk cringe a bit when they imagine us fucking. Lantry was my quill, I was his inkwell. We sure had our fun in our days, didn't we? I can't deny we were familiar with each other's. Lantry clears his throat and falters in silence. Not slowly. Nice. I should catch up just for a second here. K-Money says, Zolga, man, you can have in progress opinions and not like things, but telling others that they're bad at having fun is not a good look. Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like it's a difference. I definitely don't think there's value in denying people their opinions, but it's like it's basically like any topic. I also feel that people can, maybe even should, although I don't quite want to get to the should point on that, have political opinions. But the hope would be that they are considered opinions, that they are not, just a reflection of what other people have thought or what, someone who they think would be a smart person would say, or, the last YouTube video that they saw, but that it is a considered opinion based on sort of their values and ethics and how they align with the options available. Of course, very rarely we get that. And likewise, in the case of gaming, right, I probably, if I am honest, am going to be more mistaken than not in terms of some of the constraints facing developers and why things are the way that they are. It's one reason why I tend not to like to, just make some assumptions of the circumstances under which a game was made. So, in the case of Tyranny, very frequently people will say the game was rushed at the end. Now, my prior there in terms of like having worked on movies, I don't necessarily, very rarely do movies get filmed in sequence. So I don't know if there's something about a game that says you start at the beginning and end at the end. I don't think there's anything stopping you, but because I don't actually have any idea of that, I probably wouldn't be so quick myself to say that, oh yeah, they just rushed the end. Although in fairness, I can see something of a commercial reason for doing so, because of course, the ending, especially in a linear experience, is going to be the least experienced by the audience. So it, of course, would make sense that if you had to cut something, cutting from there is going to have the smallest overall impact, although clearly people are going to remember the dismount more than they're going to remember sort of the second to last scene or something like that. So, it's not a completely unreasonable expectation, but I know nothing about the circumstances under which this game was made. So do I feel the need to say, oh yeah, they just, they were running out of money, they rushed it at the end? I have no basis for saying that. But what I can say is that it did feel that the ending was a bit abrupt. And in this case, I'm communicating the same thing without necessarily assigning any kind of intention to the game developer. And again, I'm not expecting people to be Vulcans. I'm not expecting people to have perfectly formed opinions that are written in a basically kind of the conversational equivalent of bubble wrap. But I do tend to find having enough self-awareness to not to declare on things that maybe we don't have the information to speak about. That's a decent enough practice to allow us to maybe notice the things that we would otherwise miss, right? So if I'm doing research and I'm doing a study on something and I have some data, I do an analysis, I'm going to be pretty scrupulous in terms of saying what I observe, what the conclusion is, and whether or not my method can support that conclusion, versus a more conversational, oh yeah, these two things happened at the same time, so they caused each other, right? Post hoc ergo propter hoc. Well, the post hoc is, yeah, anyways. Slightly different ordering there, but I think you all get the idea. Okay. If you two are so important to each other, how'd you get separated? That's a perfectly valid question. I said some things that drove a wedge of sorts between me and... You were right. All along you were right. We should have surrendered to Kairos. Lexime wipes a tear from her eye and turns to address you. The sages defied Kairos against all good judgment. Lantry's only crime was trying to inflict reason on us, and I repaid him with hatred. I thought he was trying to destroy us. But I know now it was entirely the opposite. The things I said, I wish I could take them back. Sellout? Coward? I think at one point you called me a spineless viper, but considering a serpent is about 9/10 spine, I'm not sure what that insult was meant to express. Should have hurled those invectives at my own sorry behavior. You were right, Lantry. You were right all along. Kairos is as inevitable as winter and spring. What did our defiance buy us other than ashes and sorrow? We are martyrs of nothing and no one. So much useless death. We should have listened to you and surrendered to Kairos at the start of the war. Then let us not waste any more of the present weeping over the past. He runs his hand along Lexime's cheek before looking back at you with a heavy smile. Fatebinder, we have other matters to discuss than two old sages, right? You seem unwell. Can I help? No, none can help. My insides have been fouled by magic, and I am denied the comfort of sleep. You'd think having every hour of the day to spend would allow you for such profit, but alas, I seem to step in and out of the present. I am never fully at rest. I have fallen victim to the sleepless syndrome. A resident beast woman mystic healed me after a near-fatal fall. While I lived, her healing took its toll in the days and weeks to come. The physical injuries vanished, but a restlessness took its place, and nothing has been the same. I'm Solon. I believe you contacted me regarding a legal matter? Legal matters? If you're asking about laws, you... Wait, that sounds familiar. Halting mid-thought, Lexime shakes her head with a violent twitch. Did I... Solon. Oh, my! I'd given up hope and had almost forgotten that I'd even sent word. A look of recollection spreads across her face, and Lexime examines you head to toe. Thank Kairos you found me. Apologies you should meet me now when my mind is a fleeting shadow of what it once was. Fatebinder, my offer is a simple one. I will submit to your justice and confess to every crime of my school. In exchange, I ask that you preserve my writings. I have seen centuries of work burn away in hours. Please, let me save something, some small sliver. I will purchase it with my life. If I were to help, what exactly would you want from me? I understand your caution. If these were truly offensive scripts that railed against Kairos, I would understand you being unwilling to assist in the preservation of such slander. I've read what I can of Kairos' laws, and I know that much of what we write speaks of how the Tiers was free of Kairos' grip. I know how such histories are to be put to the torch, but I contend these writings will only bring glory to Kairos. Our histories show the Tiersmen growing in hubris, unable to see the doom of Kairos to the north. These are not heresies, they are studies in the foolishness of seeing oneself as equal to or greater than Kairos. You want to bring glory to Kairos. Explain yourself. The chronicles we've kept detail a society that existed in the shadow of Kairos and ultimately fell after a long lull of complacent living. I contend that such a history speaks of Kairos' inevitability and the folly of the Tiersmen. How do I know I'm salvaging some journals and not a bunch of coded messages for your peers? I would invite you to read these chronicles yourself, look them over, and decide for yourself if I'm up to something. But I assure you, I wouldn't try something that underhanded. I'm not that stupid, and I'm not that smart. So what is it you want from me? Swear by Kairos' name that you will gather and preserve my chronicles to the best of your ability. Do that, and I care not what you do with me. If our works are protected, you grant a measure of immortality to me and other chroniclers. If my life can purchase that, I will happily pay that price. Explain exactly what you want from me before I make any promises. My request is that you gather and safeguard the chronicle fragments I've stashed here in the old walls. Once gathered, you do all that you can to make sure that the texts are spared from destruction. I will help you, but I can't swear on Kairos' name. I do not take such things lightly. Those loyal to Kairos take such oaths quite seriously, am I not mistaken? I must have your assurance that the task will be done. I say again, I will do this for you, but I will not vow on Kairos' name. End of discussion. Please, Lexime, you can trust the Fatebinder. Your vow would open the possibility of a third party destroying your scrolls, making the Fatebinder liable for a needless death. It appears I'm asking too much considering the position I am in. I suppose I will settle for an oath of your own personal honor. Then I swear on my honor as a Fatebinder that I will do everything within my power to preserve your chronicles. Fair enough, Fatebinder. That will have to suffice. Here, take this. The sage thrusts a crumpled parchment into your hands. Notes on where I left the remaining texts. My handwriting was difficult to parse even when I had my mind intact. It's gotten worse. I've used an old chronicler trick to conceal the stashes as ordinary rubble. The illusions will fade if another chronicler nears. She points to Lantry. Yours is an older specimen, but he'll suffice. Older specimen? But I popularized the rubble in plain sight trick. A nerve of this woman. If you need a hand translating, ask Lantry. He always had a knack for deciphering my scrawl. I have other questions. Perhaps I can... Her head twitches with a fatigue spasm. Help. Mel sent me. I'm Solon, and I'm here to find Reef Talon. Mel. Name squeaks out of her as a gasp, and her body becomes rigid, her face livid with focus. Mel sent you. That he's still alive, and the wound has not gone entirely to ruin just yet. Having experienced the sleepless touch of Reef Talon, I'm certain she used her fledgling magic to heal. She just did not know, nor could have known, the cost of her actions. Reef Talon is an anomaly. She has the power of a beast woman mystic, but she was improperly trained. She claimed being here in these old walls strengthened her connection with the arcane, and I suspect it is a case of too much power in unskilled hands. I spotted Reef Talon examining the carvings down here. Maybe you've seen them. They look like primitive murals. My operating hypothesis is that this place has strengthened her magic, just as a spell is cast with more force near a spire. I think this place makes Reef Talon's latent spark of mysticism into something substantial. What do you know about Reef Talon's magic? Not enough. She didn't mention being a mystic when she first got acquainted here in Bastard's Wound, which was odd. Beastwomen tend to boast about such things. Reef Talon must fear her constant challengers. Why hide such power? We must have been here for a span or two when someone got hurt, and Reef Talon calmly offered to help. She placed her hand on someone's broken leg, and to everyone's amazement, it just mended. I was amazed, but I had seen Beastwoman mystics before, and so foolishly I just didn't think to ask more questions. She used this healing trick several more times before we realized the long-term harm of her curative magic. For me, it's odd that she signed her magic so quickly. I couldn't even see what archon she was channeling, nor would she ever tell me. Tell me about these murals. There's a few of them down here. Each of them appear to be very old and made by claw and rock, not hand and paintbrush. I spotted Reef Talon examining them, and while that proves only correlation, not causation, it does make me wonder. It's a bit of a leap, I realize, but the way that you and I have scrolls and letters, perhaps beastmen can write symbols and share magic with each other in ways beyond our ken. She shrugs, a sad smile stretching across her face. It is the best hypothesis I have. I mean, what's the alternative? She learned her magic from listening to the Bane? That's a horrifying thought. So what can be done to help her? Above all, Reef Talon values the people of the wound, and so her grief over harming them, even accidentally, is overwhelming. I think she needs insight into her own magical prowess and reassurances that she can prevent making others sick with her magic. If she weren't afraid of her own powers, she might realize the wound needs her. But she's a stubborn wall of muscle, and so even helping her come to terms with her magic might not be enough. Beastwoman respects strength, and she may just need someone to knock sense into her, but ideally, better to help her come to terms with the power of hers, if possible. Where is Reef Talon? She sealed herself in the chamber nearby. Many sleepless have come down here, some to worship, some with hostile intent, most looking for answers, but I think we sleepless only serve to remind Reef Talon of what went done. I think either what went wrong or what she... Well, yeah, what she done is... Sounds like Eliza Doolittle. Yeah, what went wrong. I will seek her out. Excellent. Take this keystone. It should grant you access to the room to the east where I last saw her. Speak with her, show her patience, and see if you can't glean something from those old murals. Reef Talon was a great shepherd to the Bastard's Wound. If she could be cured of her agony, she could once again be a great leader to our enclave. Thanks a lot, K-Money. I'm actually going to take a small break myself, so you picked a good time to head out. So thank you very much for the link, too. Obviously, I couldn't watch that on stream, but I will be happy to check that out on my own, and I hope to see you on your broadcast before long. Thank you very much for hanging out. Okay, as for the rest of you, I am going to take a small break and actually get the break sign up this time. I will try to keep it reasonably short. I don't think I need to boil any water for tea this time around, but I am going to get some water. I'm going to have a bit of a stretch and otherwise just sort of take care of myself. I would highly recommend you all do the same. And then when I'm back, I'm not necessarily going to make a beeline for... Have a good one, K-Money. I'm not gonna make a beeline for Reef Talon. I'm gonna see what I can do with the new material, but where I can, we will explore as much of the old walls as I can. Then once I think I've sort of run out my progress, then we can find Reef Talon. And in the worst case scenario, we finish the Bastard's Wound content, and then we just, meander through the levels. I'm at least going to backtrack on at least one dungeon so that I can get the signs for Elantry. But if I can, it'd be nice to sort of balance these things beside each other. But yeah, I am going to at least take a few minutes to just get up, move around a little bit, and get something to drink. So it is a good time to get away from the keys, just because it's not going to be like a 2-minute break or anything like that. So I will see you when I get back. Okay, I must apologize for the time that took. I think I ran out the full pre-roll there. But oops, things caught up with me. All right, so I'm going to give this just a quick minute to kind of get on the other side of the ads. I like that little encounter with Lexime. Actually, here's what we can do. We can do a quick review of what we're working on. So Seats of Power, Trial of the Archons are things that'll basically happen in the background. Extinguishing the Flames is sort of the main quest I'm working on, so I'm going to ignore that until we finish with Bastard's Wound. Truth and Reconciliation. Chronicles for the School of Ink and Quill have been hidden deep within the Bastard's Wound Old Walls. So let's just see what we got here. Search the Old Walls for additional hidden fragments hidden by Lexime. Found the Chronicle hidden in Bastard's Wound Farm. Found the Chronicle hidden in the Fractured Depths. Once you've gained access to the lower sections of Bastard's Wound Old Walls, continue your search for the Chronicles, and you found the Chronicle hidden in the Darkened Hollow. For History of the Old Walls Part 2, Sage Lexime needs more information on the ancient Beastman paintings found within the Old Walls. She asked you to explore the Old Walls and search for additional paintings that may help her unlock the secrets of Reef Talon's abilities. Speak with Reef Talon. Talk to Reef Talon about helping you decipher the murals found throughout these Old Walls. And I believe we should be on the other side of the ad break now. So let's get some goodies. Aha. And I'm going to guess this was the one to the east that she was referring to, so we're going to check out here first. The undulating coils of luminous energy atop this platform seem curiously at peace for Urbane.
Oh, wow. It's beautiful. I'd ask to keep it, but I don't even want to consider what we'd have to feed it.
So yeah, this strikes me as something I'm going to have to come back to. Again, not quite ready to go here, so I'm going to double back, see what I can get done with the other parts. Although I'm sure at some point... Okay. Yeah, no surprise there. Although this could be the way to Reef Talon for all I know. Alright, unlucky there. Let's move a couple people back.
At once. Pay attention, kids. You might learn something.
Will do.
Take that! Negative, Fatebinder.
On it. Trouble is a... What?
You got it.
Right. I will aid you.
That's how it's done.
I think that thing blew up on death.
Wait out, you little shit.
So one of the things here is I do want to keep Lantry doing his, doing his various healing attacks. It's, so far as I can tell, this is like other RPGs in that you you do get more experience the more you use something. So the ideal is somebody like Lantry's always going to be healing. Fatebinder, I mean, I do use a bunch of lore. Okay, promising. But the, when I'm not doing that, the default should be
Interesting. More.
yeah, no surprise there. But yeah, so the default should be when I'm not casting certain spells, I want to be sure that I'm I'm maximizing my ability with the axe.
Fall before me. Count on it.
Okay, having to see
Not see that
Barrack
coming.
get his points. Should have thrust though.
Fall before me.
I got it.
And again, it says I don't seem to be responding. to
Sorry,
these.
I can't.
All right. I'm running out of stuff. Shield of Suffering. Yeah, we got 12. Heal all nearby allies and gain a damage absorption shield proportional to the health recovered. Wow.
I got it.
I can get behind that. Okay, so seems to me that with the new colored marker or whatever, I should be exploring. So again, I don't want to go to Reef Talon until I'm good and ready. It seems to me like there's other things that I can explore down here. Maybe not specifically here, but let's see what the Mad Perps gives me. Not really expecting a miracle here, but let's see what... Again, the aim is to kind of see if I can find out what's going on with this thing.
On it.
Sure. Well, that was worth it. Alright, well, I tried, but I think we've hit the limits in terms of what I can do. I mean, again, I'm assuming that this is quite deliberate in terms of where it's pointing me. But I do kind of wish I wasn't doing as much trial and error. Obviously, that's purely on my part. But I do feel some obligation to try these. And again, it's just sort of the reflection that, so far as I can tell, there isn't actually an indication that this is the symbol I should be going for. This is a very smart thing to do when there could be enemies on the other side. Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna have to buff up.
Consider it done.
Did I set the hearth for dinner? No, that's not right. The wound. Yes, and the wound. Oh, the bane. They're not so bad. Might make good pets. Another one. She seems so well rested. The tranquil woman's empty expression shifts to a pained smile. You'll adapt in time. She stares at you in wide-eyed silence. What are you doing here? You do not also hear the call? We seek Reef Talon. Her eyes fall to the floor. She does not wish to be sought. What can you tell me about Lexime? Lexime. The name is something from an old dream? I'm sorry, I once knew, but it's also distant now. What can you tell me about Reef Talon? She did this to us. Her comment is calmly devoid of accusation or judgment. Have we been called to glory? Marked for culling? We just want answers. Then perhaps we could find sleep. I'll be going now. Everywhere I smell it, ink. I hear the scratching of quills. Do you hear the quills? Not quite ready to mess with that. Alright, so that's going to be a fight. I hear her song, like the moon on the sea.
What have we here?
No! God damn it.
Right.
As you command.
Is that a second wound for worse? No. Lucky me. I just saved your life, Juggernaut. Everywhere I smell it, I hear the scratching of quills. Do you hear the quills?
Quiet down.
Found something.
Unbelievable.
I'll take care of it.
On it. See that?
Stop.
Stepping lightly.
I've got it.
So maybe it's something about the form? I hear her song, the moon on the sea. Sing us to sleep, our lovely lullaby. Everywhere I smell it, I hear the scratching of quills. Do you hear the quills? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to... Actually, this one probably has more combat encounters. So before I go further on this, we're going to take a quick minute to compare armor. So again, there's a bit of a simplification here in the sense that as long as it's heavy, I'm not going to use it. I think those are the first ones. So I believe it starts with the heavy and then we move to the light. Yeah, so all of these are basically the same. Yeah, so nothing for the Fate Binder. For verse, again, I think for the most part we've gone through this, but doesn't hurt to double check because we've definitely gotten more purple stuff. I should actually probably get to the point where I just sell anything that isn't purple. Yeah, so Scavenger doesn't work because it doesn't have the sorcery. Too much recovery. Too much recovery. I think any set of gloves that aren't the nobleman's bracers are going to increase recovery too much. Doesn't mean we can't check, but... Okay, hats likewise. Again, we've got nobleman's hats, so we may find an improvement, but... Yep. And then finally, light leather boots. This may have an improvement. It's basically more of the same. Slightly better recovery here, though. I think I'm going to stick with the light leather boots for the simple reason that Lantry's actually been doing a reasonably good job of like emptying out his spells. So if anything, I want to boost his recovery a bit faster. But for the main team, so can't see myself. Yeah, so the Iron Great Axe was tempting, but I believe the crit was what made... Actually, there's got to be a way of communicating the chance for a critical hit. Precision hit to crit 9%, graze to hit. So, I mean, I guess one way of figuring this out, when attacking a target, precision determines the percentage chance that an attack result is upgraded. Miss to graze, graze to hit, hit to crit. Scavenger leather gloves give me 4%, phantom shade plus 5% to hit precision. So all right, so it would seem to me here, I'm going to see if I can work this out, actually. Let me just get a pen. You know what? I can use my notebook. So if I say we've got our 24 to 30 plus 2, so 26 to 32. Now, it would seem to me here that unless there's something about a crit I don't know, okay, so it's the sever and the massive blow, so it's actually a 55% bonus. Fair enough. Okay, so if it crits, and then it's a 9% chance. So just bear with me a second here. I'm actually in Excel for this. So practically, it would seem to me like I just want to say we worry about the 9% crit chance. Oh, crap. Okay, then we take... probably shouldn't be spending much time calculating it, because I'm pretty sure the crit doesn't make it worthwhile. Really? Oh, right. Yeah, it's more like it. Okay, so in practical terms, it's like 1.5 points of damage on any given swing. So if I say my alternative is to take the Iron Great Axe, just going to copy all of that. So that one starts at 31 to 38. I want to double check the crit chance. Yeah, so that's still the same crit chance, but, oh, it's actually +3. All right, that changes things. So it's 32 to 39. I mean, that +1 on its own already addresses the crit, right? So the crit bonus is lower. In this case, it's just the plus 30. But the net is 36, so I should have switched this thing out ages ago. I've also got Staff of Boreal Frost. Now, I'm actually mildly tempted to switch to something electric. Yeah, we'll keep that as is. Verse, we're not going to spend as much time doing the verse checks, but anything with a higher DPS gets consideration, and then failing that. Now, I will also just be clear on a couple things here. So it's a more complicated, it's actually a more complicated calculation than this, because if there's something to stop me from getting the, landing the hit, then it doesn't really matter, right? So if there was something that changed, the reason why I did the calculation that I did for the Iron Great Axe was just that on its own, the only thing that's really changing is that crit factor and the the crit factor and the base damage. So in this case, it was just trying to say, it's like, okay, is the expected damage of that, I guess 25% enough to overcome the base damage improvement. Now, if I had a character that was better at delivering crits, maybe it would. But in this case, the consistent base damage was a considerably larger improvement. But that calculation would be much more difficult if the chance to hit for the axes were different. So with verse, like, this is one of the, like, what I would like to do is I'd like to understand the combat of this game well enough to be able to say, okay, so if I put these gloves on, this actually improves my accuracy. My accuracy means I hit more often, which actually raises my expected damage because now all of a sudden I'm not missing, etc., etc. I'm kind of taking a lot of things for granted that I shouldn't be. But again, I already kind of have enough digressions in this game that I'm not sure it's in my interest to, like, sit and do the spreadsheet thing. I'm pretty reluctant to switch out the grave bow, to be honest. Barrack, though, what can we do for you? So I suppose if there's something that makes him better at yeah, actually, I don't think we're ever going to switch that weapon. And yeah, we've already kind of established Lantry's going to stick with his thing. Okay. Works for me. This beacon is not reacting to the torch keys found inside the old walls. It may respond to torch keys found elsewhere. Yeah, so that shape was the closest. I'm not...
You didn't see nothing.
I'll do it for the North.
We're definitely going to have baddies come out of that, so...
Graven Ash protects.
At once.
Come at.
Consider it
Great
done.
meat.
On it.
I think I'm just gonna let Barrick do his pummeling thing.
On it.
You got it. Count on it. Not a problem, boss.
On it.
Really thought that was her leveling. Should have paid a closer attention. Okay, Fatebinder's getting a bit of damage here, but
That one rammed me hard.
Fall before me!
Right.
Oh, that one fucking hurt!
Well struck. Well struck.
okay, so that wasn't a disaster. But was basically just grabbing loot.
Have a look here. Consider it done.
So as far as I can tell, no new books in the area.
Sorry, I can't.
We haven't found something to open this up yet. We also haven't closed off the possibilities of places to visit. Not at all clear what this is supposed to be. Okay, interesting. There's old Reef Talon. Everywhere I smell it, ink. I hear the scratching of quills. Do you hear the quills? The beast woman waits by the dust-caked altar, head bent downward in contemplation. A deep, gravelly rumble emanates from her chest as you cross the chamber's threshold. With a loud chuff, she turns to face you. A fierce pair of ice-blue eyes watch you with murderous intensity. Stalkers and hunters, bane and mystics, all come to spill Reef Talon's lifeblood. Beast woman must climb deep, deep, paw where lights do not follow. She watches you intently, her ice-blue eyes piercing the chamber's shadow. She places her knuckles upon the cold stone floor, muscles coiled menacingly. Fatebinder creeps to beast woman dead, bathed in blood of wound warriors. Why should Reef Talon speak to human? I'm here to help you. We can bring an end to the sleepless. Human is arrogant, speaks of sleepless like rival clan, as if simple blood right can tame dreamless wanderers. Does Fatebinder not realize that poison within Reef Talon gives birth to sleepless? Why does Fatebinder think Reef Talon sculps in deep dark pit? Beastwoman does not fear hunters, does not bring scourge beasts, only fears poison inside Reef Talon. In Old Walls Hollow, Beastwoman cannot steal dreams of clanmates. Wound Tribe is safe with Reef Talon, forgotten in wretched deep. I want to know more about your healing abilities. Does Fatebinder remember time before knowing to crawl? Beastwoman did not know such power existed until packmates already amended. She shrugs with a scowling grimace. Have no answers for Fatebinder or Beastwoman. How do these powers awaken in you? Beastwoman cannot say for sure. Her hand gesticulates wildly, but for a time no words come out. Ever since coming to this place, Reef Talon feels hum of magic, but did not feel it until it already happened. Packmate was injured on patrol, and Reef Talon ran to clutch injured whelp. Beastwoman remembers hearing lifeblood from inside dying body, and it roared at Tubay. That's when Mending Rite began to knit flesh. That's when Reef Talon's shame began. Why do you think the healed become sleepless? Can describe sensation of healing power, but not meaning. She pauses to think, listlessly tracing a painted symbol on her chest with a claw. When human lies on ground with lifeblood pouring from wounds, Reef Talon can sense blood rage inside dying creature. And when Beastwoman touches paw to human, Reef Talon can stoke blood rage to live longer? To demand blood keep pumping. I'm not explaining right. No, can't. The mystic gift always goes too far. Always. Mending Rite's grab of life spark stretches far and until like extinguished, snuffed, drowned. After Rite, human's wounds close and lifeblood dries, but life spark is gone. Healed human is hollow, does not remember pain or pleasure, does not dream, is sleepless. Do you think something in the old walls gave you these powers? She shrugs, scratching her head with a gruff sigh. Maybe. Reef Talon never finished proper training to be mystic. Power always feels like coming in from within Reef Talon. Maybe Old Walls awoken Mending Rite? Let me ask you something else. She watches you cautiously, silently awaiting your next words. Tell me of the sleepless. The Beastwoman bristles at the mention. Greatest of shames. Reef Talon is sickened own tribe with dreamlessness. Do you know how they were created? Beastwoman only knows that sleepless were birthed from mystic strength, from Reef Talon's corrupting touch. Dark powers extinguish life spark of dying human. After Mending Rite, human looks like living warm blood, but carries hollow death on inside. Reef Talon looks away, ashamed. Why are they down here? After Mending Rite, streamless kith smell like spent flame. Hearts do not beat with purpose or desire to live. Dreamless always call out to Reef Talon, beg Mewling for answers. Reef Talon has none. The Beastwoman covers her ears with her hands. Sleepless brood will not have Beastwoman. Always remind her of failure. Or leave Beastwoman. Always remind her of failure. Any idea why the Bane ignore the sleepness? Same question ponders Reef Talon. Scourge beasts seek blood of Beastwoman, but never of sleepness kith. Even noisy sleepness. Reef Talon thinks sleepless casts no scent for scourge beasts to smell. No dreams to tempt ancient hungers. I've seen only humans sleepless. Are there no sleepless beasts? No, not yet. Used Mending Rites on beasts and pack, but saw no dreamless scar. Do you know of a way to cure them? If Beastwoman knew, would have already tried. Human sage called Lexim insists Reef Talon has gift, can mend better, but is wrong. Is folly to try. Must never use wretched gift again. Speak of something else. Why flee the wound? You could have simply stopped using your magic. Too dangerous. What if Reef Talon's milk sickens cubs? What if blood corrodes tinker tools? No, much to lose. Reef Talon will take no chances. Will stay confined to depths. Are you so content to let Jaspos and Wagstaff lead your tribe? Would Hope Ocean Mystic, Stonecutter choke on own hatreds? Reef Talon is no longer prima, so cannot be concerned with such matters. What do you hope to gain from hiding here? Not hiding, am saving others. Her breath clouds the cool air, her words sharp and prideful. Reef Talon could not let corrupting power harm kin and kith. Left home den, but not abandon tribe. Did not run and hide, but does not know what will solve problem. Can you be sure that your powers won't manifest in a new way that harms the settlers even from here? Beastwoman did not envision this. Reef Talon's hackles raise in alarm. Fatebinder speaks of possible truth. Sleepless poison is created by mending touch. What if same corruption grows stronger and spreads from afar? She glances down at the leathery pads of her palm. Perhaps Reef Talon has been cursed for trespassing where human prima called Kairos forbids. How did you come to find the wound? For a moment, her eyes grow distant and shed their intensity. Reef Talon has lived 4 lives. First life was free manta-born in islands near human lands called Stalwart. Second life was as slave. She chuffs and banishes the thought with a shake of her head. Third life with Prima of Wound Tribe, and now Reef Talon lives 4th life as wretched outcast, skulking deep in pits of old walls. What was your life as a manta-born like? Manta-born are warriors of land and ocean, more free than land-trapped beastmen. Island kith are quarrelsome like Tyr's tribes, not always leading packs to rend, rape, kill rivals over parched land. Island warriors respect tribe boundaries where sand meets water. Beastwoman has no need to fight other tribes. Mother Ocean provides great maws and deep lurkers to test warriors and mystics, to keep Manta-born strong. Reef Talon's mouth stretches into a knowing smile. Has Fatebinder wrestled with black-eyed Great Maw with head and tail of spears, or killed clear-skinned lurker with glowing fangs and snakes for limbs? Has human ever heard deadly song of Stinging Cloud and stayed awake? Manta-born does not need tribal war to stay fierce. Hunt, bleed, feed packmates. She bobs her head at the fond memory. What's good life? The Beastwoman extends a claw towards a nearby chasm. Old Wall's water are easy for Reef Talon to swim. Not afraid of dark waters, though scourge beasts sometimes lurk in deep places. Tell me about your time in slavery. Was less than 7 years ago. Reef Talon awoke to a nest beset with humans. Human tribe answering to Prima Stradius overwhelmed Reef Talon and kin. Likely survived only because human desired captive muscle, not roasted beast. She narrows her eyes, ruminating over some remembered detail. Long did Reef Talon toil in confinement, until mystics from Chorus tribe came one morning to human den. Though you were not witness to the events, you heard rumors of Chorus blood chanters performing all manner of arcane experiments on the Manta-born, the indigenous beastmen of Stalwart. Though you know little of what the study involved, the beast is proof that at least one victim survived the blood chanters' curiosity. As humans drank rutted feasted over moonless night, blood rage filled Reef Talon and other captive kin. The hair on the beastwoman's back stands erect as she speaks. Sullenly, red, arose to butchered captors, and freedom. Reef Talon does not know what fever possessed other beastmen. Did not think to ask, only thought of escape. So you learned your magic from Manta-born mystics? No, Manta-born groomed Reef Talon for such role, but only for season. Outsiders came, mystic paint came off, war paint came on, and tribe was shattered. Reef Talon never given the rites of initiation, is not deserving of ancient title. How did you come to lead the wound, even if briefly? Did not come to wound to be prima. Once arrived, Reef Talon was only proper answer, was best at hunting new prey, showed kin and kith how to slink through deep dark, how to hold ground against scourge beasts. All beasts followed Reef Talon. Once Wound Clan gathered to discuss scourge hunt in Old Walls. Stonecutter and Ocean Mystic could not agree on plan, wished only to bicker and yell until Reef Talon toured and the whelps cowered. Tribe only knew Prima Reef Talon could maintain order, until tribe became fearful of Prima's magic, though then Beastwoman could no longer inspire order, only fear. Let me ask you something else. It's time for you to return to the wound in one form or another. Human will leave this place. Nothing to discuss. Leave Reef Talon to suffer with weathered kin, but finding Reef Talon fade from memory. Lexime believes you can learn to control your powers, maybe with some help. Why does Fatebinder trust chirping of human mystic that roams deep dark halls? Reef Talon has watched Lexime speak with own shadow, or sit on damp cold floor to sing to ancient stone. As her eyes follow a trail of cascading dust, a contemplative purr vibrates along the back of her throat. Fatebinder's goal is wise. Reef Talon can feel mystic strength in blood. Like ocean storm, beast woman blood is not tame, will flow like petulant cub. What do you know about the murals in these old walls? Can see shapes and shadows telling story, and know that stories are made with claw and brushed by fur. She sits back on her haunches and gazes towards the blackened ceiling. Well, Reef Talon does know, but humans too puny to carve. But doubt bait and paw on walls. Hello, Corey T, and thank you very much for the raid, Lord Gloom. How are you all doing tonight? And what were you playing? I usually assume that Lord Gloom is playing some kind of card game, but I know he's actually more than just that. And thank you for announcing it, Corey T, because I actually was not paying attention to chat and would have missed it. 7 Days to Die. See, that ain't no card game. How is it? I think you've played that before, but a friend of mine who is not exactly new to gaming anymore, but definitely is sort of discovering. It's actually kind of fun to talk to him because, like, if you've been on Steam for a while, there's a certain point where it's not exactly like you feel like you've seen it all, but like there's not as much that's new. Like, okay, it's like not everything, like Hades doesn't come out every day on Steam, right? And there's actually some very good games that come on Steam that I've never even heard of. I probably never will hear of. But what's kind of neat is when you talk with someone who is newer to gaming, you actually kind of get to realize just how exciting everything is. And so things that you overlook or don't have a reason to check for one reason or another, all of a sudden you discover it. So that was my experience. I believe I have 7 Days to Die in my library and have never played it. But in addition to you playing it, one of my friends actually is pretty fond of it. So, and again, it's just one of these things where you stay on Steam long enough, you kind of feel like you've seen it all. But it takes sort of somebody communicating how excited they are by something to sometimes pull me out of the rut. So they released a new 2.0 version a few months ago, and you've been playing it with some friends. Some neat updates. That's cool. How do these powers awaken in you? Beastwoman cannot say for sure. Her hands gesticulate wildly, but for a time no words come out. Ever since coming to this place, Reef Talon feels hum of magic, but did not feel it until it already happened. Packmate was injured on patrol, and Reef Talon ran to clutch injured whelp. Beastwoman remembers hearing lifeblood from inside dying body, and it roared it to obey. That's when Mending Right began to knit flesh. That's when Reef Talon's shame began. Sandbox type game, so you can get in what you put. Yes. Is Tyranny a new old game or an old game? Lol, this game is for old people. No, so this would be, I think, a new old game, but the thing to remember is, like, it is an, even by, the thing is that when people talk about new old games, it's actually old, right? Like, this thing I'm pretty sure is at least 7 years old. Sorry, just 1 second. But yeah, so I realize this is like I'm making a meal of this answer, which is quite a straightforward one, but I'll actually just double check the release date on Steam. 2016. So, like, I mean, this game is almost 10 years old, but of course, by our standards, that's a new game. But this is by Obsidian, so this is definitely following. Actually, I know I've been talking a lot during this stream, but it's worth kind of talking about the context of this, I feel. So Obsidian seems to be a bunch of ex-Black Isle people who made a bunch of CRPGs in sort of the Baldur's Gate or Fallout style, and they were sort of the second wave of big professional Kickstarter-backed games, it feels like. So there was what became Broken Age, and they were part of that, short window where it really felt like if you had a promising game idea, you could quite reasonably expect to get a few $1 million of crowdfunding. And I even remember at the time there was some controversy around that, where sort of people are saying, is like, why are these like well-known game developers are kind of going out rattling their golden cups to get people to give them, strings-free financing, when there are a bunch of games that literally will not happen without this financing. And I get it, right? Like the worst example by far of this would be the way that the Oculus was handled, where effectively everybody just, gave this interest-free or like equity-free, like basically just a straight-up financed Oculus so that it could be turned around and sold to Facebook, like the cheapest possible financing for this guy who, clearly did very, very well with. I mean, obviously there are other investors, but yeah. So it seems to me that if the funding system is going to be available to people, everybody should be able to participate. I don't see a reason to disadvantage people because they're reasonably well known, because there are well-known creators who actually can't get passion projects made, and that should be one of the most exciting for somebody to do on Kickstarter. So for instance, I don't think Broken Age is an example of something that would be made, because the adventure game was basically dead at the time that it was made. Arguably is still dead, but at least you have some developers who are making something like that on a smaller scale. So anyways, Obsidian, like I said, inspired by the success of Broken Age, and they say, hey, remember Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, that sort of thing. If you like that, we want to make something like that. And if you back this project, we're going to give you exactly that. We're going to give that. Now, that game was not Tyranny. That game was Pillars of Eternity, and it was a very successful Kickstarter project, and from what I understand, actually quite a successful game. So they followed it up with Tyranny, which is this game. And this was, I believe both Pillars of Eternity and Tyranny were published by Paradox. Unfortunately, and I did feel this at the time, so because I am enjoying Tyranny, I do want to give Pillars of Eternity another shot, but there were some things about Pillars of Eternity that really made me bounce off of it. But Tyranny is an original world, Bronze Age, so it's pretty unique in that sense. I feel that that's an underutilized time period for a setting. Takes place after the conquest of a continent by basically an evil overlord. You're kind of like a Bronze Age Judge Dredd for the sort of villain of a D&D campaign after they win the conquest. And actually, character creation is kind of interesting, because after you get the basics down in terms of stats and things like that, you actually are not exactly a commander, but a some like more senior than like frontline figure in the conquest. Maybe special agent might be a good way of putting it. So there's just something kind of neat about your character creation being. It's actually a little bit like Traveler, where you are actually taking a role in the society and doing things prior to where the actual campaign starts. But anyways, I think this is a pretty interesting game. But one of the catches on this one was, and I had this feeling when this came out, as interesting as I thought this game was, I definitely had the feeling that Pillars of Eternity. So I actually personally thought it was overrated, but that was more sort of me bouncing off Pillars of Eternity. Clearly, people were very fond of the game. They liked the DLC. You know, just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it was a bad game, right? But there was definitely a side of me that said that, like, there is a reason this style of game went away and that CRPGs became other things. And I'm not entirely sure that there's demand for this after Pillars of Eternity. And at least to Paradox's account, I think they said that sales for Tyranny were disappointing, but that it would probably make its money back. And then Obsidian sort of went back to the well, made a sequel, Pillars of Eternity 2. They did it with a different publisher, and it did very poorly. In fact, I have a suspicion that may be one of the reasons why they got acquired by Microsoft. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a sad story, right? Because it's something that clearly they wanted to do. Definitely a conscious effort to bring back an old style of game. But I also sort of feel the risk of that is if you are too loyal to the old style, then you potentially, you run the risk of discovering why they don't make them like they used to. And this is actually where I feel that, how do I put it? Sorry, just 1 second. But yeah, sorry. Just someone had a frustrating encounter, so I want to be sympathetic. But yeah, so it's one of these tricky ones where I think Larian did a good job with this, where for me, like, one of the things I don't care for this style of game, and I've gotten a little bit better in the session today, and this is true of like Baldur's Gate and even something like Planescape Torment, which is very well regarded. I'm not entirely sure why they decided to do combat in real time, because usually what this translates into is a lot of pausing on my part, and it just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel as good. It may be loyal to, I guess in the case of Baldur's Gate, it would have been like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition or something like that. But if you look at a Divinity Original Sin 1 or 2, if you look at Baldur's Gate 3, this is a more explicit turn-based strategy system. It feels a bit more satisfying. You can kind of read what's going on and understand it well. But what I think is also important about this is that it also strikes me as a bit more true to the tabletop experience. So I realize, of course, that games are interesting because they're interactive, but I've never seen like real-time tabletop combat. And so I'm not quite sure what the decision was. I'm not quite sure what inspired the decision to go for real-time combat or pausable real-time combat in these styles of games, because again, even the classics on this one, it was always a chore to kind of get through it, in my opinion. So but yeah, I don't know. I'm belaboring the point here, but yeah, it's a very, you're right to read it as a very conscious effort to take the mantle of sort of early BioWare, in some of the Interplay games under Black Isle, and like I said, there's definitely some alumni there. but it's a mixed bag simply because it would be wrong for me to say, even Pillars of Eternity, which I struggled with, and I do intend to kind of come back to. I cannot bring myself to call them bad games, but they are also games where I become very aware of the limitation. And I think I'm growing more of the opinion on sort of the modernization of these styles of games that it is usually to the game's detriment to be too beholden to the classic way of doing it. Like I said, I do feel that Larian was really onto something when they made a satisfying... And like, I don't mean to look at this with rose-colored glasses, because Divinity Original Sin really does feel like if you build your character different from what they were thinking, you have a hard time. I'm really struggling on Tactician mode, for instance. But at least in the case of sort of the time units and the really clear actions that you can take and the time cost for these things, I just feel like I'm doing a lot less fiddly stuff. And it means that when I'm doing the not combat stuff, I really get to sort of just drink it all in. I'm not like dreading combat, whereas this one, I'm sort of like, I kind of wish I would do less combat because this game really does feel to be at its best when it's doing some of the story stuff. But I don't. This sounds a little more lukewarm than it should. I actually am quite fond of this game, and I'm interested in where it's going. So if you haven't tried it out, it's definitely one that I think is worth trying, assuming that you like this sort of thing. I do apologize for the small breaks in between, but I'm also over time, so... Okay. What's the alternative? Learn to tame your powers and become more, or you wither away in these old walls? Beast Woman snorts defiantly, but averts her gaze. Slowly, she bobs her head in agreement. Fatebinder is correct. Reef Talon should not hide or run from strange power, like cowardly pack whelp not fit for breeding. Must learn to dominate mystic strength, just as Alpha controls unruly pack. A disheveled Lexime struggles into the... By the way, the other thing I can say, too, I think a lot of people felt very encouraged by Disco Elysium, which at some point apparently was intended to have combat, but ultimately didn't get it implemented before they released. And of course, the big revelation for everyone is that it's actually not necessary. You can have a very enjoyable RPG experience without combat. So it may not have been an intentional choice, but it's one that sort of, I guess they kind of get the credit of recognizing what it was when they did stumble onto it. So a disheveled Lexime shuffles into the chamber, interrupting Reef Talon's moment of self-reflection. Then we're agreed. I had a feeling you'd rouse her to action. We should move quickly. My mind wanders, and I'll not squander this chance while I still have my wits. If you can't control your magic, you're worthless to the wound, to everyone. Do something about it. Fatebinder shames Reef Talon, but is not incorrect. She balls her fist, grinding her knuckles into stonework. Is not incorrect. Reef Talon, I believe the ancient paintings in these old walls are the key. Your powers didn't really manifest until you were here in the wound. You've been down amongst these corridors and murals prior to your power first manifesting. And if I'm correct, these murals convey magic in a similar fashion to how we sages convey knowledge along parchment. At the very least, there's little harm in testing my hunch. Already this place has changed, Reef Talon. Made Beast Woman's touch heal for a moment, but sicken forever. With a violent lurch, she slaps herself across the face. Must swim in ancient magics until strong enough to understand, or drowned and no longer a threat. We'll go now. Meet Fightbinder through Quick Leap Pad to east. Fatebinder, you may have run across some of these old murals in your time here. Look them over. I'm sure you'll glean some insight that Reef Talon can put to use. She marks the locations of a few of them on your map. The one Reef Talon refers to is just through a teleporter down the hallways to the east. We'll await your return there. Fatebinder should have Reef Talon's knife. She draws what must be a small blade to her, but is a proper sword to your hand from her bandolier. With head bowed, she hands you the weapon. Brought good luck to Reef Talon and Deep Dark. Will bring good luck to Fatebinder. Also has too much stink of blood from humans Reef Talon trained to hunt. Much, much better Fatebinder has. All right.
Huh.
Well, we're doing well for loot.
Hey, over there.
So we'll see what that new weapon gives us. It's a proper sword, so more likely going to be useful to verse. Oops. Alright, what are we looking at here? Iron guitar, iron dagger. Is it really a two-hander? That can't be right. Arms away. Bronze swords. Ardent bronze swords. Stalwart bronze swords. Huh. Not sure what to make of that. Gained an item Penumbra. I wish there was like a search for this. It's weird though, because it says it's a proper sword, so... Or maybe, there we go. Okay. So, after all of that, not enough. There's a small temptation to make make Barrick use this anyway, but I will settle for...
This will serve me well.
Shadow's Treachery. The primordial blade Penumbra turns its victims' shadows against them, wrapping them in their own darkness and weakening them to the sword's ephemeral edge. The time the targets remain afflicted by this power scales with Penumbra's renown. Your shadow flickers erratically in the wan violet light emitted by this viciously sharp bronze blade, fluctuating between converging about the weapon's length and stretching as if trying to escape its presence. No legend sings of this weapon, yet it bristles with sorcerous energy, with sharpened alloy edge seems insufficient to contain. Perhaps the craftsperson responsible for this sword used techniques long lost to modern smiths, infusing it with a power that may be older than the Archons, the Overlord, or even the Old Walls you discovered it in. So at this point I'm just trying to like load up on the weapons. Okay, so Grave Bows, big fan. Steadfast Insignia, pretty good. Dauntless, maxed. Sage Lexime needs more information about the ancient Beastman paintings found within the Old Walls. She has asked you to explore the Old Walls and search for additional paintings that may help her unlock the secrets of Reef Talon's abilities. So first thing we're going to do is go through the portal and see if we've got any of the new areas. I'm probably going to need to wrap up reasonably soon just because it's almost midnight. Oh, here we go. Exceptional Sigil of Cyclical Energies. Okay, actually, I think I'm going to wrap it up here, so I do apologize for a little bit more in terms of monologuing and then wrapping up for tonight, but this actually seems like a good place to leave it. There's a new mystery for us to check out. But I'm actually feeling more encouraged about how I was able to handle the combat. So I'll probably do this on Friday. I am feeling a little self-conscious of the fact that I've been mainlining the game for the last little while. On the other hand, I did have a break last week, so I can see... I don't know. I can see that... I can see at least another week of doing Tyranny, and then maybe changing it up, some more Cyberpunk on Friday. But I'm going to see if I can find someone to host tonight. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Thank you, Lord Gloom, for the raid. Let's see who is online. We've got Will Shand, who seems to be having a good time. So I'm going to leave you in his capable hands. It is Lord Gloom. Hopefully you get a chance to see a little bit more of it. I don't know if the VODs are any good, but I will try. Next time you're in, I'll try and do a little bit more progress through the story, and then you can get a bit of an idea of the feel for it. The one thing I will say for this that I'm happy about is I do actually have some of the old BioWare games and such on my tablet, and this has really encouraged me to go and try. So like there's a side of me that really wants to try Planescape Torment. I have actually sort of started up a first Baldur's Gate. And again, I'm struggling with this stuff for sure. It's not... this is not necessarily something where I'm like, oh yes, Baldur's Gate 1, peak BioWare. But I will say sometimes I get to appreciate... Like, if nothing else, Tyranny has allowed me to appreciate Pillars of Eternity in a different way. And I can still sort of acknowledge that maybe this isn't the sort of thing that I'm going to play, go out of my way to play on my own compared to, say, spinning up XCOM again or something like that. But, or Civ is probably the one I'd go for. But, I do like it when games give me a little bit more, I can give me an appreciation that maybe I didn't have for something that I bounced off of first. So anyways, more of that in the future. Thanks for watching. Please enjoy Will Shand's stream. Take care. Hey, Revive Snow. Good to see you.